cuts to public safety, despite the lack of cooperation, have been less than they should have been just by the budget numbers. By the budget numbers, the cut to public safety should have been twice what I authorized. Because we should have gotten 60% of that $5 million out of public safety. That would be $3 million as opposed to 1.5. So this administration has done everything it can, despite a lack of cooperation at the bargaining table, to make sure that we have the largest public safety force that we can afford. And the numbers bear that out. Now, I also think it's important to say that our officers, when they're on duty, work extremely hard. I mean, they're the hardest working cops, anywhere within 100 miles. So they get on shifts, they make arrests, they prevent crimes, they solve crimes. So I just don't want it to be mistaken that because we're having challenges at the bargaining table around a contract, that this police force is not out there working hard fighting crime every day. And I know that that a union official has a certain role. So when they make comments to the media, they're in that role as a union official. They're not in that role as a law enforcement officer working for the city of Flint, if you get the distinction. So I just wanted to point that out because we're having a tough conversation about where we're at with finances, and I want you to know that our officers, our firefighters, they're the best in the business.
What are you telling the citizens? How can we help get over this hump? What are you asking of the tax-paying residents of Flint right now? Right.
Well, the number one thing that citizens can do is to be vigilant, in their own communities, on their own blocks. We have 7 of 9 mini stations open and operating. The next 2 will be opening in the coming weeks. So we need individuals to take an active role in monitoring their own streets, their own kids, their own grandkids with the curfews. Those are all things that an officer can't always come by to babysit. An officer has to be able to focus on the serious law enforcement issues, and we need residents to take care of their own, their own blocks, their own kids and grandkids, the youth in their lives, and you can be a volunteer at one of our mini stations and be part of a block club, a crime watch, a neighborhood association. All of those things, those local partnerships are the things that keep communities safe for the long term. And that's why we'll be training our officers to do even more with community policing, to be a part of those partnerships. And the last point on that, which the chief has really emphasized, the crimes that have gone unsolved in this community are not because an officer hasn't done what they need to do on the investigation. It's because someone in this community has information about a crime that they're not sharing with the authorities. So when that information is able to come forward, we have the investigative capacity. The prosecutor has a proven record of being tough on crime, and those individuals will be brought to justice. But citizens have to step up and do their part.
Well, I've heard the exact opposite. I've heard where people have had addresses, IDs of people that are breaking in houses and taking violent things off the house, and nothing has happened to them. You're encouraging us to get more involved, but is there going to be the infrastructure to handle that tidal wave of involvement?
This is what our community, the chief can talk about some of the specifics.
It's more times than not, when we get the information, as you said, that more times than not, that time those people are prosecuted. But there are instances when you give us that information that they're not prosecuted, but there's other things that go on other than that information, and it may be a reason why they weren't prosecuted. So, without being specific, in specific cases, you don't know that.
Can we get just 2 quick things? When we talk about the community policing element, some of the officers have expressed a fear of, I don't want to call it a vigilante justice approach, but is there a fear of some residents as they get involved in the community policing element that some might try to take actions into their own hands, that sort of thing?
Those things happen. But when we find out that those things are happening, that's when we take care of it. People are people. You know, we can't control people's actions, you know, but when we find out that that's what's going on, is some vigilante stuff, then we take care of it.
Just want to get to the grants also. Are some of these grants like 3 or 4 year grants? Do they require a contribution or a matching from the city in the 4th year at all? Anything like that? Or?
The stimulus COPS grant does.
Okay. Would the city be prepared at this juncture, or is it too early to say whether or not the city would be able to make a
No,
contribution?
we will. I can give you a specific on that so you understand how we're sustaining those grants. That COPS grant that came through the stimulus provides 3 years of funding for the officers, with the requirement that, a traditional requirement that the city provides a 4th year. The way we have chosen to structure it is that we have spread that 3 years of funding out over 4 years.
Okay.
And the city is paying a portion of the 4th year in each year.
Okay.
So that the amount that we're paying today is what we know we can sustain across the 4-year period of the grant. So those are the smart financial management that we've put in place to make sure that we're able to fully draw down those grant dollars.
Okay.
But that COPS stimulus grant pays for an entry-level officer also, which there's a gap between what we're paying the officer and what the grant is paying. So the city's actually paying a bigger portion than what you've been told.
Are there any more questions?
Can I just ask about the golf courses, and that's
Sure.
that'll be it.
Sure.
So what's the deal with that? I mean, you close some, where are they gonna open? Are we losing money by not having them open? What's the whole situation with the golf courses?
Well, the way the city's courses have been run over the years, the more courses that were open, the more money you lost. So we are concentrating our golf service at Swartz Creek Golf Course. It'll open on the traditional schedule of the first full week in April. So we're less than 2 weeks away from that opening. So stay tuned.
All right, thank
Thank
you
you, Mayor.
all.
Thank you,
Okay,
Chief.
thank you all.
Thank you.